Welcome back to Boilers Extra. I'm Nathan Barrett from the Indy Star.
Sam King from the Journal and Courier.
Two separate places now. Last time you saw us, we were huddled in the same hallway like we're trying to write out a tornado drill or something at school after Purdue's season opening 31-0 victory over Ball State. We're going to open up talking about football. We're going to mostly talk today about basketball, though. Earlier today, recording this on Tuesday, Jacob Weber from La Lumiere, previously of Kearney, Nebraska, committed to Purdue, became the second commit in the 2026 class. And we're mostly going to get into just our thoughts on him and how he fits into the class and what this means for Purdue. But let's talk about football up front. Boilermakers play Southern Illinois on Saturday. It's a 7:30 kickoff for TV. I was going to say Reese's Passing Understanding, but it's for TV money. So if you want to stay up late, we'll be doing some kind of Boilers Extra, I'm sure, after that game finally gets put to bed, after many of you have probably already been put to bed. But Sam, this is a game, as we were just sort of talking off camera, I don't know, there's some lose-lose to it because, and I was just talking to a Southern Illinois fan podcaster earlier this week who they just had the same thing. Southern Illinois just came off a game against a Division II school called Thomas More College and beat them 49-3 or whatever. And this is sort of Purdue's version of that in some ways. And I don't know what this game necessarily tells us this week about Purdue, but what are you looking at going into this week? What does Purdue need to show you on Saturday against this level opponent that tells you what it's, or can it even tell us whether they're ready to go play USC and Notre Dame 2 weeks after that?
Yeah, Purdue's got to put this one to bed, probably by halftime for people to feel good about this program. You want to see progress from last week to this week. And, it's for a program that went 1-11 last year, we're nitpicking a 31-0 victory, shows signs of, maybe just expectations of this being a different era of Purdue football. But you go back and watch that game, which I did, and what looked like a pretty dominant performance. There were some places where, maybe in the grand scheme of things, it's satisfactory, but it's not what a Big Ten team should do to a MAC team, especially a team like Ball State that had 3 victories last year and also was trying to turn a new page in its program. The tackling was something Barry Odom talked about after the game. That was kind of evident that there were some missed tackles that allowed Ball State to turn should be sacks into positive gains and things of that sort. The blocking was okay, not great against a caliber of opponent that you should be able to impose your will against. But those are 2 areas that I want to see definite improvements from week 1 to week 2, or game 1 to game 2, I guess. Can Purdue dominate the line of scrimmage offensively, and can it do a better job wrapping up and taking guys to the ground defensively?
Yeah, there's going to be games that Purdue plays this season, probably multiple games, where it's just not talented enough to beat that team. That's just reality of college football. It's a reality of a lot of sports, and you only get one shot at them. And when the Ohio States of the world, or the Michigans and Notre Dames of the world, and Illinois maybe, when those teams are out there, they may just be that much more talented than you. But what you don't want to be doing, I think, and listen, this is what everybody talks about after week 1. I just mentioned Ohio State, they just beat Texas. At the previous number 1 team, and they're still talking this week about all the ways they want to be better, right? So this is typical week 1 conversation. But I do think that they can't let these sort of things lag. You've got to kind of nip it in the bud a little bit. You can't be talking about tackling technique when you're going against USC and Notre Dame. Certainly there are things that an opponent does that makes them harder to tackle, for sure. But you can't be talking about, technique issues on the offensive line, those sorts of things. Those are things that need to kind of very quickly get addressed. But I think that was the theme that I got out of Monday, whether it was talking to Barry Odom and his coordinators, or frankly, whether it was talking to Charles Correa and Michael Jackson III, was the recognition, at least from that more veteran part of the roster that has been through this. And, they know that, first game is the first game. And especially when you're playing down a level, how do you hold yourself accountable and make and realize and see the big picture early on and keep driving for perfection or as close as you can get to it, because that's unattainable, but that's what you're going to keep striving for. So that's, I think, the thing that I look for on Saturday. The score sometimes, whatever, it should be a comfortable win for them, even though Southern Illinois is not a terrible FCS program by any means. They were in the playoff 2 years ago. I think they're ranked right now after that season opening win. So they've got some things going on, at least relative to the rest of FCS. And I don't think Purdue can't afford to take anybody lightly, but it's more about, can you come in and even more emphatically control a game than what you did against Ball State?
Yeah, and it's funny because I wrote this on Saturday. I went back and read my story, my insider piece after last year's season opener against Indiana State, where, quite frankly, if you go watch that game, Purdue didn't dominate that game in the way it should have, even though it won 49-0 a year ago. And the kind of comments that came from the press conference after that game was kind of like, well, yeah, we expected this. We knew that we were going to do this. When in reality, then there were a lot of faults that, I'm sure when you go back and watch film, you see those things. But I think that was the difference, was in the moment, the coaches and players were like, it wasn't a flawless performance, even though Purdue went out and won 31-0 against Ball State. And a year ago, I felt like maybe there was more kind of like, yeah, that's right. This is going to be a great season. This is what we're about. And that's maybe the sign of just, two different coaching staffs and the way that the culture is being built at Purdue.
I said it last week, like maybe it was after the game, or maybe it was on this pod. I can't remember, but football robots are really boring at press conferences, but they can probably win you a lot of games. And Barry Odom is trying to build an armada of football robots. That's probably not the right term. Who are some players that you feel like have a little bit at stake in this second week? Like guys that it's not even so much that like they have individual performances they have to bounce back from, but just in terms of momentum or guys that you're still looking to see a next step from.
I think you have to establish Devin Mockabee or the running game in general this game. That's an area where Purdue, to average 3.2 yards a rush against Ball State, is quite frankly probably embarrassing if you're a Big Ten team that prides itself on being able to run the football. And that's something that's got to get shored up. There was a couple nice runs, but you would like to be able to you've shown you can throw the ball, I guess, last week a little bit. You got to show that you can run the ball now and do it well, because there are going to be games that you mentioned earlier, Ohio State's, Illinois', Notre Dame's, games like that, where it's going to benefit you if you can shorten the game and get 4 or 5 yards every carry and drag out drives and make the time drip down, so that you can keep the other team's offense off the field more than anything else. So that's the number one area that I'm really looking for, is just being able to establish a running game against Southern Illinois.
Yeah, and I think that is it's 1 and 1A. It's that, and it's extension of what we were already talking about. But like, can you, Purdue, shut down the run a little bit better than you did last week? And as far as being able to run the ball, I thought that Ball State was a team that came in determined to stop the run. I think Josh Henson even joked, because I was asking him a question along those lines Monday, and he's like, "Yeah, that's where we were able to come out throwing the way we did." No, it was a different answer, different question he said that about, but it was why they were able to throw the ball, maybe with some of the effectiveness they did early on. At the same time, you're Purdue, you're a Big Ten team, you should be able to dictate terms there a little bit. And similarly, on the other side, they obviously are doing some very good things up front, like to get the penetration that they are getting on a regular basis, to be getting it from the second level or the second string that's coming in, and some of those guys, living in the backfield a little bit. Like, they're doing some good things there. It's just got to be more consistent. They've got to tighten it up, because they're about to play teams where, Ball State could take advantage of those things to some extent. They had like 5 explosive runs over the course of a game. USC and Notre Dame, and I know Notre Dame's rushing game took a hit from loss of talent, but at the same time, like those kinds of programs in Illinois, you're about to face 3 programs in a row that I think are well equipped to take advantage of things in a really big way. So, the linebackers, if you look at the PFF grades, and I hesitate to cite them because I think they're sometimes inconsistent, and it varies kind of week to week sometimes depending on who's doing them. But the linebackers didn't grade super great against against Ball State, and I think that's a position where they still need probably even more stability than they have. But I think what you're seeing also is the safety play behind them is so strong that it's buying them a little bit of not room for error, but it gives them a little additional support that last year's linebackers didn't have either.
Yeah, that's one thing I noted. And Sunday I wrote just kind of like a newcomers or guys who made their Purdue debut who stood out. And I was going to do 5 people, but then my last one was Purdue safeties because I thought Miles Slusher played well, Taj Rael played well, Crew Wakely played well, and they're all new guys. And when you lose Dylan Thieneman, who, quite frankly, played pretty well for Oregon and is obviously, we know, a talented player, you have to have, quality safeties there to replace that. And I don't think that Purdue did, and maybe one player is not going to replace Dylan Thieneman, but by committee, I think Purdue can be much better on the back end because of the depth. And, the talent is there, but it's, nobody's maybe to the caliber of a Thieneman.
Yeah, I don't know if they have a playmaker back there the way Thieneman was a playmaker, but I think they have the potential to be really solid at that back level. Really, all 5 defensive back spots right now seem like they could be solid. Now, I say that again, having just faced a team that doesn't really throw the ball well at all. But when you look at all other aspects of the game, you see transferable skills, and they're going to face teams. I mean, there's receivers in this league that they probably can't cover, and hardly anybody else can cover them either. And they're going to have huge seasons no matter who they play. Like, I think it's more to the point. Are they showing up in ways that they did last year, where guys seem like they're out of place, guys are allowing big plays. Sometimes that back door always seems open. Like that was happening a lot last year. And again, completely different team, but a better version of that, obviously, in week 1. That's probably about as far as we have to go with football for this week. I think we're better off almost like waiting until after USC. Like you can judge some things right now, but really until you get on the field with somebody that's in your weight class, it's hard to get a full assessment. So just personally, I think I'm reserving a lot of judgment until I see them play USC. That'll be a much bigger indicator than anything that happened in these first 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree with that. So with that said, I guess we'll switch to basketball. And, obviously a big newsworthy item came this morning with the commitment of Jacob Weber, who, if you watch his highlights on YouTube or you look at his stats, the dude can shoot. He had a game last year where he made 10 out of 23 pointers in a high school game. And I scratched my head because 23 sounds like a lot. I know that's this era of basketball now.
20 shot attempts sounds like a lot.
But he hits them at a high clip, which is the key thing. And that's something that we'll probably need with the loss of a couple of the players that they're losing this year.
Yeah, I was looking at his summer stats for the team he played for on the Adidas circuit this summer. I think it was when the Air Gordon team. And I think he shot, there was something like 77% of his shot attempts were from 3, right, but he made 38% of them. And when you watch him play, certainly he'll spot up and hit shots, but he's creating shots. Like he's going and finding his shots. And I was just talking to him and to his coach at Laudemere, whose name is I just lost it. His name is Pat Holmes. Sorry about that. And I asked him, what's the best shot that you have seen him make so far? What's the most impressive shot you've seen him make? And he kind of skipped right past that and said, it's not a single shot. It's that everybody knows he's going to shoot it all the time, and he still never gets a shot blocked. Even when he has guys of size guarding him, he's still able to just get the shot off. When you watch him shoot, it's if you just distract yourself from where on the floor it is and just focus on the form, it's a very quick release, and it's just a very confident approach to that part of the game. And I asked him, how many shots a game do you put up? And he didn't have an exact count, but it's understandably a guy who is in the gym constantly and has developed this part of a game to where it's not just his coach at Laudemere. It's not just other coaches or not just people who follow Purdue. I mean, I think this guy is considered, if not the best shooter in the 2026 class, then on the very short list of guys. And this follows the Purdue blueprint, the Matt Painter blueprint. Like, they're always looking for the short list of the very best guys in the country. And when they happen to be in Indiana, and he wasn't in Indiana to begin with, he had decided to come to Lawler later. But when it's guys in the state of Indiana, all the better. That's how you get Ryan Klein and Sasha Stefanovic and DJ Bird and all these guys over the years. But when you can get the best shooter in the country, I think that's it has opened up even more for Purdue than what it used to be. I think in the past it was the best shooter in Indiana needs to come to Purdue as long as he's the right fit. And now I think it was from talking to Weber that Purdue is a team that he watched when he was younger, and he loved watching Jaden Ivey and Carson Edwards, and he even out in Nebraska, hundreds of miles away, he became not a Purdue fan, but someone who admired that style of play, admired the kind of player who was at Purdue, and that sticks in those guys' minds when they become this level of recruit and become someone that Purdue then identifies as a guy who can make a difference on this next series of tournament runs that they're going to try to make.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. Kind of like Liam Murphy is a 6'8" shooter. That's why he's at Purdue, because he can shoot threes. And then he's going to leave. Fletcher Loyer is going to leave, and you're getting a 6'6" guy who shoots threes. Jack Benner is a really good outside shooter. Probably has some more diversity to his game, but it's a lot of these guys. If you go back and look at Purdue 15 years ago, it's kind of a little bit of the same roster makeup. Now it's varied over time, but I think that Matt Painter has found a formula that he likes that works, and a lot of these guys are similar skill sets to guys that were there before them, that you can just kind of fill in the gaps when those guys are gone. I don't know. Did he say if he's still going to visit Tennessee next week? Did you ask him about that?
He said he had one scheduled to Tennessee next week. My impression was that visit isn't happening. But I guess I can't confirm that 100% for sure. He said he had scheduled one that was supposed to be next week. He was kind of talking about it in the past tense. So as we're sitting here, I should probably say, I don't want to misquote him, but I get the impression that is not happening.
We should note that these players commit, but they're not legally binding until they've signed a national letter of intent. So
absolutely. And this was the only official visit he took. Like, he had the one he took to Purdue. He had one scheduled with Tennessee. That's again, just the way he phrased it, I thought that meant that was probably not happening, but we'll see if that's true. But there were a lot of things here that, from talking to him, why do you pick Purdue? It's a combination of two things. It's all the things we were just talking about, how Purdue has prioritized players like this and has shown that this is a system where a guy can come in and they're going to set a lot of down screens, a lot of pin downs, and they're going to let him do what he does. They're going to, I think Purdue sometimes now, because of Zach Edey and the how prolific they've been at bringing in ultimate height, that's maybe the number one identity of Purdue in some people's minds. But this is what they also bring a lot of. Like, they surround those guys exclusively with guys that can shoot the heck out of the ball. And he knows that there's guys in this, whether it's Luke Ertl, who's coming into this class with him, or other guys who presumably will still be in the program at that point, that can make plays, and he can benefit from that. They're going to get him the ball. He knows the ball's going to go inside out with this offense. Like, it's for a shooter, this is one of the premier offenses to play in. And then on top of that, it's just the timing of it, that Fletcher Loyer is leaving. He was a name that came up as someone that Purdue's staff obviously had talked to him about, being in that same mold. And, Braden Smith is leaving, and Trey Coffin-Wren is leaving. And you already said, Liam Murphy leaving because he's just a one-year transfer. And who knows what else attrition just happens, but the opportunity to step in right away and have a significant impact is there.
Yeah, absolutely. And Oscar Clough also will be gone.
Yeah. Same one-year transfer situation. Yeah.
Last year, Purdue did not have that ultimate height after 1 minute into the second game. and still was very prolific offensively because it shot the ball extremely well from beyond the arc, whether that was Braden Smith, Fletcher Lawyer, Cam Heide, Miles Colton, whoever it was. Guys stepped up and hit outside shots. And you're right that Purdue is still kind of big man U. That's what Matt Painter has done very well is get extremely talented big men and then play getting the ball in the post and then kicking it back out. But I think you're kind of right. Purdue has a separate identity that's also really good perimeter play, really good wings that can shoot the ball, whether you go back to Brian Klein, Dakota Mathias, a bunch of guys that you had mentioned earlier. There are guys that can, light you up quick from the outside. And now you're at a point where Matt Painter has all this data for the last 20 years and maybe more so in the last 5 or 6 years to say like, hey, this is how we play ball. This is how we anticipate you impacting this team. And when you can show somebody that and then also say, oh, by the way, we win 25 games every year. That's a nice sell job for, you would think anybody who's looking for a place to go. And on top of that, the loss of players that they're going to have, at least those 5. And then if anybody else enters the transfer portal, there is an opportunity right away to come in and play and really develop something for multiple years because there's not any scholarship seniors that will be on that team when he comes in. I think Jack Lusk and Jace Rail may be the only seniors on that team after this year. So just, a great opportunity, I think, for him. And he probably saw that and felt like he had to capitalize.
Yeah, no, he did. Like he mentioned both of those things and things that, Matt Painter obviously had emphasized in the process that, hey, like not only do we think that this fits exactly right for you, and nobody's more transparent about your opportunity than Matt Painter. And usually he's the kind of coach that is so transparent about it that it can seem detrimental to the purpose going in, right? That he'll be the one to tell you, listen, you're not promised anything. And that still applies, but he's also can honestly look the guy in the eye and say, like, listen, the guy who you're most like and that we feel like is an essential piece of this, or really the 2 people, when you include Liam Murphy, who they got for exactly this reason, to be that extra wing shooter, they're both gone. Like somebody's got to do that, and you've got a scholarship now. So there's a good chance it's going to be you. I think that was a completely fair way to look at that. He's 6'6", 175. Talking to things about where he wants to improve. He wants to get stronger, wants to improve defensively. The strength, though, is not obviously that always goes hand in hand with defense. You often hear players talk about that. I think he sees the strength as a way that he could separate from these long-term comparisons to Lawyer. That maybe by Fletcher has a good mid-range game too. But like by bulking up and being a bigger physical presence, can his offensive game diversify? Can he maybe show a little bit more athleticism? Can he be a bigger weapon inside the arc? Just because to be able to draw a defender out and then put the ball on the floor and go in, there's obviously a lot of opportunity there to kind of counterpunch. And I think he sees that. Now it's just a matter of building towards that. They've got another year here at Lawler to do that. At the same time, again, the description that I got from his coach was basically that, all those things are true, but he never forgets the main reason why he's on the floor, because it's not just that he can shoot. Like he really embraces that identity. Like this is the thing that he does. Not just well, but like better than almost anybody he's going to be on the floor with.
Yeah. And, you would think if this plays out the way that we all think it will, you're going to have Daniel Jacobson who can rebound a lot of those missed shots and maybe get you a second opportunity. That was one thing when Zach Edey was at Purdue that a lot of the guys who were chucking up shots told me, like, we kind of feel like we have the freedom to just, maybe pull the trigger on what is perceived as a bad shot because we know we're going to get the offensive board a lot of times if we don't make it. That's an added luxury to kind of having those shooters mixed with, elite size inside. So Now, Purdue didn't rebound very well last year, at least not compared to previous years. But like we said, your biggest guy on the floor most nights was Trey Kaufman-Rand or Caleb First. So you're not going to have that problem. You're going to have a 7'3", 7'4" guy, at least probably playing extended minutes next season.
I mean, there's other front court people in the mix that project right now to still be around, whether it's Raleigh Burgess, Jack Bender.
Right.
Like they've got some other, bigger guys who, after Kaufman-Wren leaves, are still going to be around. They're going to have to, I think, go get some more size in this class, which I think we could probably go into on a different podcast. But the focusing just on what this means now for the backcourt, if you're going to include him in that conversation, the perimeter kind of backcourt group, like when you project for what could be here for 26, it's Ertl and now Weber, Antoine West, Omar Mayer, CJ Cox, Jakari Harris. Like you're getting pretty deep now into you've got like a 2 deep at the first 3 spots, which doesn't usually work out that well. But at the same time, the opportunity is there to be either very deep or to have had some guys from this group by the end of next summer, have pushed their way to the forefront and sort of announced that they're the ones who are the next pillars of this thing.
Yeah, very much so. I don't really have a whole lot more to add to that. You do, because you've talked to the coach, you talked to the player, and I was going off of YouTube highlights and max prep stats. So, but I think we covered pretty much the bases there of what he means moving forward. This is probably not the last member of this recruiting class, so we will have more on that, and then we can touch on maybe more what he means along with Luke Ertl whenever that next person commits.
Yeah, so we'll be on top of that. We will be on top of Purdue football later this week. For Sam King, I'm Nathan Baird. That was Boilers Extra.